This is my ultimate guide to Sailor Moon wigs. This is my third wig of the moon, so I was able to make this tangle-proof, durable, cheaper, and easier than ever before. Let's go back in time and explain why I wanted to make a new Sailor Moon wig when I actually already own a Sailor Moon wig. This is my first Sailor Moon wig. She's looking a little worse for wear, especially in the tail department. But you know what? This is a good wig. That's a nice pigtail back. The curls at one time looked like these. And I'm very proud of this wig. It is not just a lace front. I also took the lace off of a different wig and separated it, like steamed it to become the pigtail part, and sewed in lace to have a pigtail laced wig. This is not a hard cap. It's just a regular old wig that has been stubbed, meaning all of this hair is just glued in at the dongos, but look at the dongos. The dongos are sad. They're bad dongos. The dongos are bad. And the tails are fucked up because this is like a 7-year-old wig. And this wig is also the reason why this cosplay has never gone to a con, is because it's like, well, that wig takes up a lot of room in the suitcase. If I'm gonna travel with that wig, it has to be on a wig head. And this was before I sort of discovered the realm of hard cap wigs. But I have in fact discovered new ways to do hard cap wigs. This one is a hard cap, but it is not a Foss shape hard cap like I have done with my last couple pigtail wigs. This first thing here, this is something to explain. What you're looking at is a plaster head that is a flawed copy of my head. The real reason that I did this plaster head was, but for the sake of the surplus upload, I will not be explaining that. This is a new pattern that I developed for my head that fits my head way better than my old, like the one I was using with the Foss shape, which was like 3 pieces, a piece in the middle and 2 on the sides. This one is 4 pieces total. The problem I've had with my Foss shape wigs is that the back never sits right. And one of the things I'm really proud of with this is the way the back sits on the nape of my neck. Obviously, I can't see it from where I'm sitting, but like, look at that. That looks pretty natural. That looks pretty good to me. It looks a lot better than like how my Okaroon wig sits right there. They kind of fall open because I was shaping them on this canvas wig head, which really doesn't have a lot of like volume to the back of the skull, and I apparently have a voluminous back of my skull. Like, you can see how curved it is compared to like my old Foss shape ones. But this isn't Foss shape, and it's hard as a rock. Like, this isn't pinned on or anything, so I can actually just take it off and show you. Not Foss shape. It's a hard cap, but it's not Foss shape. And it goes on so easy. And it's actually, because it fits so well, I haven't pinned it or taped it or anything, and it's just like on there really good. So it's just felt. I felt like every time I did a Foss shape base, I was like, y'all, I get it. Foss shape's expensive. You could probably do this with felt and glue. And I was correct. You can in fact just do it with felt and glue. It takes longer than doing a Foss shape wig because you can just form the Foss shape immediately. Like, it takes 5 seconds to get it into the hardened shape. With this, I soaked in just a big layer of tacky glue into the felt, and then I did what my interpretation of Alley Cat's description of how she does glue cap wigs was when I went to Alley Cat's wig panel, she talked about using a combination of glue like this and kind of doing a lattice of hot glue over, I think when she's doing glue caps, she might be starting with like the chopped up wig thing. Although I actually think she may have mentioned, and I don't know if this is true, and sometimes Allie watches my surplus uploads, so Allie, please correct me. I think what she said is what she does is she does like the tape pattern on somebody's head so that they have a custom wig cap, and then I think she might build the wig on top of that, which is essentially what I'm doing here, because this new pattern came from a duct tape pattern one done on this plaster copy of my head, but it's in felt because the idea of doing that with I don't want plastic on my head. I'd rather have felt on my head. So yeah, it's literally just soak in a bunch of tacky glue to the felt, do a lattice work of hot glue, which is what Allie said is what gives it that hard shell. You don't need a ton of hot glue, but I did just a big lattice, and then I went over it one more time with one more layer of tacky glue after doing the hot glue lattice, and when it hardened, it became essentially the same thing as a Foss shape wig, except a little thinner. In fact, a little more flexible, but just as sturdy because the glue doesn't soak all the way through, so you still get the feeling of felt on the inside of your wig. So now we get to turning this into an Usagi wig. After I got the new base together, I got some cotton batting, and I roughly cut the pattern out again in cotton batting and just hot glued it on. Just like no sewing at all on this wig. Everything is hot glue. Ooh, and the other thing is I can like get up under here and scratch my head because it is pretty flexible. Anyway, I did the cotton batting one to like cover up the hot glue lattice so that it wouldn't really show when I'm gluing down the hair. And obviously you could be a little more purposeful with your hot glue lattice if you didn't want to put cotton batting on top of this. But it also, for a pigtail wig, you know, it gives you that little bit of volume. It makes it look like there's more hair than there is. But if you wanted more like a slicked back ponytail, you probably don't want the cotton batting. It's about to look really strange though, because the other thing I did was I glued the cotton batting down on the sides, but I left everything in the center open because I'm gonna use it later for the pigtail part. So it's gonna look, frankly, very this looks bad. It's about to look worse. But look at this thing. It's more flexible and it's cheaper. It's awesome. It's what I've said you could do from the beginning, and I guess nobody tried it. But now I've done it for you. Here you go. So, Dongo! Moving on to the Dongo. We call them Dongos because Tuxedo Mask calls Sailor Moon Bunhead, but a Dongo is a Japanese confectionery that looks like a little circle. The Dongo buns are quite possibly the most difficult part of a Sailor Moon wig, especially for me. Like, my first one, I very much struggled with the Dongos. Mine started with making some wefts. Now, originally, I thought these were going to be wefts for the pigtail part because the actual story of what is happening here in this footage is I was experimenting with seeing how far I could go with this wig with just what was left in the bag of extra hair from Okaroon, which was not a lot, but I managed to do my Dongos and the sides of the pigtails with leftover Okaroon hair before I had to then actually buy wigs. But if you haven't seen me make wefts before, glue on plastic wrap, put the loose hair in the glue, take the palette knife, smush all of the glue into all of the hair, and then let it dry. Now we get to some very smart things that I did with this. So obviously the Dongo started as styrofoam balls, but I felt like this was very smart. I covered my Dongo in foam clay. The reason I did this was because the first time I did a Dongo, one of the things I had so much trouble with is trying to glue to the hair to the texture of the styrofoam. Because one, the styrofoam is full of holes, so, you know, it's soaking into the styrofoam. That's annoying on its face. But also it's not smooth, and because it's textured, it's kind of making the hair stick to it, which is annoying. So I was like, I'm gonna cover it in foam clay, which was genius, and you should do this. It made it so much easier. So this is what the attachment is. These are coupling nuts or long nuts. I got them at Lowe's. You can find them in the drawers of specialty nuts. Now Hank would love that. I'm sure Hank loves the specialty nut drawers. I got more stuff from the specialty nut drawers, but obviously I stuck the coupling nut in there, just smashing the styrofoam into it. And then before I actually glued it in, I taped up the end of it to keep glue from going into the actual threading of the coupling nut, and that's just a piece of masking tape. This is literally just to protect itself from glue. Get some hot glue in the hole, put the coupling nut in the hole using the screw or the bolt as a handle, and bing bang. Okay, this is the attachment that goes inside of the wig. So it's a bolt, but instead of like a Warbler X a la the Kinpatsu cosplay ponytail technique, these Dongos are not super heavy, so all that is, again, from the specialty nut drawer, that is a rubber washer. I'm sad I didn't know about these before. It's literally a rubber washer. So it's flexible, it's gonna sit on your head right, and it's also going to make it really easy to keep that bolt in position in that wig. And you can even glue it into the wig if you want to, but then it flexes with the rest of the wig instead of, you know, sitting flat like a metal washer would. The specialty nut drawer at Lowe's is the secret cosplay weapon that cosplayers don't want you to know about. There's so much new wig tech here, y'all. This is the part where if you have made a Sailor Moon wig and you struggled with the dongos, like I did, or if you are scared to do this project, or you have a circle bun to do, I believe I have found the most easy and replicatable way to do this. So I've got my wefts. They're glued wefts, so you don't have like the sewn part of that on there. And I've cut off the ugly part of the weft. So I'm taking a weft of about this size. So it's maybe going around a third of the ball, and it's going in facing east. I'm gonna use cardinal directions because that makes more sense in my brain. You've got one facing east, going around the, which one is longitude and latitude? No, we're gonna use X and Y axis. You've got one going east along the X axis, right? This first one I struggled a little bit with because I didn't curl it before I glued it to the thing, so I had to curl it on that. Don't recommend that. Recommend curling it before you glue it on there. I was just ended up curling them with a round brush again, so I heated them up with my tiny baby straightener and then rolled them around my round brush so that they would just curl around the ball. Got that glued on. The foam clay makes it so much easier to spread the glue on the ball. It also helped the hair stay nice and smooth. This is the part that's a little tricky and hard to do. The way I'm doing it here is very forgiving, especially with this first one. So the first one goes on X-axis going east. The next one, obviously hairspray, blow dry, get it all into place. The next one goes still on the X-axis, but going west. So they are essentially forming a little pigtail part on the ball, down on one side, where they're both going in opposite directions, curling around the ball. Same thing, that gets glued on, hairsprayed, blow dried. See the little pigtail part? You go X-axis, east and west, wrapping around. TSA are gonna love seeing all the metal in my cosplay wigs from now on. Hold on, I have a funny story tangent. When I was at ALA, I was on my way. I was judging the contest. I was coming back to be on stage and, you know, judge the performance part. And I was in Kasane Teto. And in my Teto, I have hanger wire in the drill curls. And at ALA, they have a security line with a metal detector. And so I go through the metal detector in Teto and it goes beep, beep, beep. And the guy comes up to me with his wand and he starts wanding me. And he's being very nice. And then I say, I'll give you a hint. It's in the wig. And then he goes, beep, 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 and he laughs like it's the funniest thing he's ever seen. And he lets me through. Anyway, now here's the part that pulls it all together. On the Y-axis, oh, I also did tinsel. I put in some holographic tinsel because I have some. Now the third one on the Y-axis from the very bottom of the dongo gets glued on and pulled over top of the pigtail part that you created on the ball and gets swooped and swirled around until it becomes a perfect little dongo. They look great. I love them. And they were like so much easier to do than the first time. They looked so clean because I really thought about like, where do we put these wefts so that they kind of hide each other? I'm very proud of my dongos. They are like the worst part of my first Sailor Moon wig. And I would say they are like the cleanest thing about this one. My bangs need work for sure. Like they look good, but they need work. But yeah, in the time lapses, you can see me holding the weft on a round brush before actually gluing it on. Absolutely glue it beforehand. This also, the length of this hair was all determined by like how long the hair that I had left from Okaroon was. Until we get to the part where I show you the wigs, which I think is next, all of this was leftover Okaroon hair. This is where don't look at that. So this was some bad wig science. I tried something new that nothing about this really became important, but one of the things I tried to do was go over the center back part of the felt and put on liquid latex with the idea that it would help it look like a scalp where the pigtail part was. There'll be like a little, like you'll see like a little bit of skin that didn't really end up happening, but it looked really like weird and gross when I did it. Oh, this was another big thing that I did that I have not like done with wigs before, I don't think. So like every time I've done pigtail parts, I like go right for the pigtail part and then I'm like, oh, I gotta do the back, the nape of the neck, right? And then I have to like put the nape of the neck stuff over top the other stuff and it just never looks super clean. But this time I did the nape of the neck first, again, because I didn't have any hair yet. And I highly recommend just going for the nape of the neck and like your ears first. It's boring, but it's like a really important part of what makes it like actually natural looking is getting that on there first so that you can work this hair on top of it to look good. This is just like all you do is you get the glue on there, you get little tiny sections of hair, you make sure they're nice and brushed through, you push them into the glue, and you control the glue with the palette knife and smooth it all out. And you can be a little messy at this point. The tops of this is all gonna get covered up. Obviously I did like little curly things so it kind of looks like, you know, all the baby hairs coming out of the bottom. I went ahead and did the sides of the wig. This is the same thing. Laying glue onto the cotton batting, being really careful and laying hair in and using double palette knife method to control where it is. This was another thing that I also found really helpful. When you're placing the hair, what's gonna happen is you're gonna put it down and then you're gonna wanna like immediately press it into the glue, which is what you see me doing in that footage there. But what I found super helpful actually was you lay it down, you kind of just let it sit, and then you spray it with hairspray and blow dry it. And then it'll all kind of be sticking to itself and you can really, really press it into that glue and let it get all glued up. And when you take your hand back up, because the hairspray is making all of the hair stick together, the hair isn't going to stick to your hand, which was a thing that will happen if you just try to press it into the glue, even with the palette knives. When you do the hairspray, you can press it down with your hand and it won't stick. Big important thing is getting around the dongo spot really, really glued down and trying to keep the area where there's lots of glue as small as possible. So here's the fiber I finally ended up buying. This was all I needed. I could have done the dongos with the hair that I had left over from the wig that I cut up, but what I got was Epic Cosplay's 1 pack of their long wefts in classic white, which then became both tails. So both tails are 1 pack of wefts. You only need 1. That's all that I used that pack of wefts for. It has become both tails. We'll get to why I can do this with the tails, because they're indestructible. They have pigtail shields on them. And then the wig I bought was really just like determined of, I knew I wanted a lace front because I love me a lace front. If you don't want to do this as a lace front, you can do it as a glued front. I have still never done a glued front. We'll get there one day. I'm scared. Yeah, this is their keto. It's a really short lace front. And really the only part of this wig that I kept intact was the bangs for the sake of the lace front. I also don't know that I even recommend Epic Cosplay's lace fronts because like, look at this. Yeah, you flip it inside out. That's not a lot of lace at all. For how much I paid. Now I will say Epic Cosplay, even having a white wig that I could order and get here within a week is chef's kiss. Because a white Arta wig is like the one piece. No one will ever find it. Arta's lace fronts used to look like this too, where you got like the half inch of lace. And like, it's fine for what this is, but I would expect a little more lace. But yeah, then I just cut up the wig, as you do, because I need a bunch of little wefts. Don't need the wig itself. Some people may prefer to cut all of the hair off of the wig. I like to avoid that as much as I can because loose hair is more annoying to work with than hair that, you know, has an end to it. And then it just becomes a challenge of hiding those ends. But with what I did here with this wig, I think I did a pretty good job. There is not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to how I cut this wig apart, other than the fact that I kept the bangs intact. Everything else just got chopped into little pieces, mostly so it could become the pigtail part. And I did a little differently this time. I actually like, I've seen people do this and I'm always like, I should try to do it that way. But the thing where you have the hair going go one side, like the zigzag parts from the 90s. If y'all remember the commercials with the zigzag parts, like you do that, but it's almost like you're kind of doing a braid. But yeah, I'm just taking little sections and I'm finally making use of the cotton batting that I put on there so long ago and why I left it open like that. So I can glue the part of the weft with all of the weft stuff on it under the cotton batting and then let it fall over the cotton batting of the one that it just crossed. And I'm just varying which side that I'm doing that on and then using each piece to cover up the ugly stuff from the other piece and the cotton batting on top of the other pieces. This also was super helpful. When I got done with like a section, so like when I got the top of the head, I went through and I just glued it down up by the bolt, which is gonna keep it like nice and fluffy and pretty. So it's glued down at its root and it's glued down at its tip, but it's not glued down in the middle, which makes it look nice and fluffy and lovely. One of the things I have struggled with pigtail parts is getting them straight. Like with my first usagi, that looks really good because it's literally just like a piece of lace front that has been chopped away from a wig and parted and then sewn in. So it was easy to get it straight. But like my Teto wig, my Miku's, if I even did a pigtail back, the pigtail back is probably a little bit uneven. But it's a little bit easier to keep it even looking if you're not even making it even. Oh, this though? Okay, this is important. Because remember, a pigtail going on your head, you're pulling hair from your entire head. And what I'm building up in the back there is a pigtail part where the hair only comes from the center of the head. But you've got pieces right here where you've got more head that are not coming from the pigtail part. So this little piece right here got glued in before I did the last section that came into the pigtail part so that I could cover it up, lattice work it in there so that it's covered and it covers that part and makes that look nice and natural. You see how that one swoops down and goes down into the back and really like finishes everything off, and how the hair goes that way and how you can't see the liquid latex at all and that really didn't matter. I just thought that was a cool idea. The bangs! The one thing I will say is even, 7 years ago when I made my Sailor Moon wig, I had already mastered how to do usagi bangs, the 90s fluffy bangs. I have not cut these short enough, but this is exactly what I did 7 years ago to that wig. Mesh rollers. End paper is toilet paper, so you wrap the end of the section with toilet paper to keep all the layers in. Like, it keeps the flyaways from happening and helps you roll it onto the curler. Roll it on to the mesh roller, get it stuck into the wig. I use the U pins because it works better, but you can also use like wig pins. You can literally use sewing pins to stick it into the wig head. You've noticed I've switched wig heads because it's easier to stick curlers into a styrofoam wig head than it is a canvas wig head. And this is the pattern you want to do. Curls all facing forward towards your face. So the curl is going downward towards your face, and 2 rows to get it really, really curly. And if you've got a really thick wig, you might want to do 3 rows, and then you steam it. When I steam my curls, I will do like at least 2 rounds of going through and individually like blasting them with the steam, holding the steamer on each curl for like a good hot second. And then once I've done that once or twice, you do the bag. So you get a trash bag, grocery bag, something, you put it over the wig and you just sit there and you hold the steamer under the bag and let the bag fill up with steam. An interesting thing that happened when I did this too, because remember this, I didn't even say that I glued the bangs of the keto. This is the front of the keto that I cut up earlier. I literally just glued it to the front of the hard shell that I had been working off of. I didn't end up having to cut off part of the hard shell just so there was room to put the lace in there. But this is just for the sake of having a lace front for the bangs. If you were doing a glued front, you'd probably want to do this differently. You actually might want to do the similar thing where you take the front of a wig and put it on the bangs. I will say the length of the keto did really work out well for usagi bangs. I did cut a little bit of the front out because you can see how long they are, and I will probably cut them even shorter. I forgot to show you this too. Such a bad steamer. Before I curled them, I went through and I crimped the middle section of them. So I left here not crimped. I left the back of all these sections not crimped. I left the front of these sections not crimped. I bananaed out the hair in the middle and I crimped them a little bit. And I went through with my boar hair clamping brush as I was curling. Thank you, Alley Cat Cosplay, for teaching me that, which gets away, like takes away a lot of the crimping texture. And then I curled it with mesh curlers. And then I steamed it, just skipping over my own footage. The other thing I do is once the bag is like full of steam, I'll throw a towel on top of it to help keep the heat inside. And then I will let the wig sit for like a day. I do end up taking the bag off after a few hours, like once it's cooled down, so that it can dry out, because you probably don't want it to sit in there wet. Then it might get smelly. The unfortunate thing about the bangs though is I can tell you how to use mesh rollers. I can tell you what curl pattern to put them in. I cannot tell you what I did with my hands to get them to do this. Because it also happened when I wasn't filming. Because look how not correct they look in the footage. Getting them into this takes a lot of like fiddling and making them sit a certain way, and like do I want them this way? Do I want them like all the way like this? It's really up to you. You do the rollers that way and then do whatever the fuck you want with them, because they will be doing the 90s anime bang thing, but how they sit and why they sit that way is just gonna take like combing and brushing, finagling it until it does what you want. That is the unfortunate reality of 90s anime bangs, is they're gonna come out looking crazy and you're gonna mess with them until they do what you want. Are you Luna today? But get them where you want. Hairspray them, blow dry them, all that jazz. Oh, and then for these little ones, I took little, those are like bendy tube rollers. They're just smaller curlers than that I have. Got them heated up with the Tiny Baby straightener, wrapped them around the tiny curler, let them cool, and they became these perfect little curly cues. These are the tails. If you've never heard of the modern invention of a pigtail shield, these tails have pigtail shields. So all the tail itself, I took the pack of Wefts, cut them in totally in half. So one half became one pigtail, the other half became the other. I just took the tops of them and folded them until they got as small as I could get them to fold, hot glued the top, and then made them a pigtail shield, which is literally just a piece of tulle sewn into a tube, though I will warn you, do make sure that you check you haven't put your tension on really tight from when you were trying to ruffle something, so you don't accidentally ruffle pigtail shield. Make sure your tension is good. Maybe turn your tension down a little bit if you're having struggle with sewing tool. Then you just get them turned inside out and you put them on the pigtail and you've got an untangleable tail. The way these are attached though, I think is pretty smart. They are on parachute clips. So you can see the little bolt where the Dongo gets screwed in. And then I had some hair from the bangs that I left out of the bangs and was going to pull backwards, which is also working to cover up, like, you know, any of the ugly wiggy stuff happening right here where they meet. And it's literally just like a parachute clip sewn onto a piece of twill tape and then glued to hell and back into the wig. And then I took that little piece of hair that came from up here and brought that backward and glued it on top. And then the pigtail has a corresponding parachute clip. So they come off very easily and big. And now my kitty cam is just the trash can. There she is, gone to her spot. Pigtail. One of the things I ended up doing was, before I shoved it into the pigtail shield, I put masking tape all over the top of it to keep it from like snagging on the tool. And then the twill tape is just sewn to itself, but it is wrapped around the like chunky glued masking taped weft part of the tail so that it's on there real good. And then it just clips in and sits underneath the Dongo, which I'm not going to try to do on the back of my head. I'm just down a tail. But because it's covered in tulle, the hair's never going to get tangled. That's not new tech. That's old tech. I actually pin this to my head if I was gonna wear it to a con, because I am having to like bring it forward a little bit, but it's not like it can like even slips back. Like it literally can't. Oop. It can. It can, in fact, slip back. And the great thing is, because the front of this here is just regular wig, I can just put U-pins in there and pin it to my head. Or if you wanted, you could do like the velvet thing that I did with Free Rin's wig, where there's like a line of velvet in the front that kind of keeps it from slipping back. You could do the Velcro like I did with Snow Miku and with Teto. I do have not a big speech. I have a little baby speech. Big speech means Dover. Can I get the Trump? We did very well with the trumpet emojis yesterday. Can I get trumpet emojis again today? All right. I've made more pigtails than I can count. And for a long time, I considered my original Usagi to be one of the best I've ever done. But the last 6 years of experience really shines in the little details. And it just goes to show that there is no final form for any of us to reach. Our room to improve is as vast and infinite as the universe itself. The moon might look far now, but one day you'll look back and see that you've flown right past it. I don't know. We needed an inspirational, just, with the Dover button now, it's like, come on, I gotta have an inspirational speech to use the Dover button. That's all I could think of this morning. It's a pretty wig, and I'm really happy with it. And I'm happy I finally had an excuse to talk about that one, because that one was pre-YouTube. And now maybe you can birth an Usagi as beautiful and indestructible as this one.